Hey, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Owner's Box. This is a very special show. We're going to have our draft. I'm Billy Koch, by the way, founder and managing partner.
Billy is so excited right now.
I was so excited that I didn't even introduce myself. Michelle, you always with me, the best in the business. And we're going to have our Breeders' Cup draft show on. It's probably going to be published on Wednesday. The draw is tonight. There's the train in the background because I am back at Del Mar. You can see there it is.
Your background.
Yeah. And I'm so pumped. I'm so excited. I haven't slept in 3 days. But we have a very, very special guest, and we want to bring him on right away. His name is Steve Haskin, and he does the Derby Dozen on the Blood Horse. He writes for Secretariat.com. Is it Secretariat.com?
Yep.
Secretariat.com. And he's people don't know this, but Steve pretty much emails me after every podcast and brings up like strange facts. Steve, thank you for joining us. This is so exciting.
It's my pleasure. Are you kidding? Listen, I've never been able to be an owner, but now I can say I've been in the owner's box.
Yeah.
Or is it on the owner's
box?
box?
Sounds so dirty, but it's
I have one question before we get into Breeders' Cup. Okay.
Yeah.
What is the craziest question, Steve, you've ever gotten asked on Askin Haskin?
Oh my goodness. Do I love doing what I'm doing?
Of course.
Why is that a crazy question? That's not crazy.
To me, it is. How could I not? I mean, this is my life. Well, family aside.
Well, you wrote for the DRF for however many years, right? You were a big man. How many years?
Thoroughbred Times. Daily Racing Form.
Blood Horse. We wrote for them all. Is there a story before we get into Breeders' Cup and Breeders' Cup history and fun stuff? Is there something that you wrote about back in the day that you cherish that is one of those articles or one of those stories that you think, I was right or it just like I just remember this?
Well, actually, the two would probably be both related to the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Oh,
I've covered Kentucky Derbies for everybody, and I've covered the Breeders' Cup Classic for everybody. But 2 Breeders' Cups. I'll give you the right.
Wait, can we guess?
Sure.
Okay, so it's 2 Breeders' Cups. Okay, Michelle, I'll guess one, you guess one. I just based on our recent conversations, because we talked after the last podcast, I'm gonna say the day Tisnow wins it for America.
I'm gonna say Arkong.
Oh, I just wrote a column about Arkong. Boy, I can tell you the story about both of those.
Okay, neither one.
No, I just wrote my recent story that's up most recently is all about my experiences with Arkong. But it would take too long to tell you. But let's put it this way. The whole gist of the story is that I had Arkong and picked him.
No one had Arkong.
No,
I was 133 to 1.
Arkong, I had him, and it was the worst day of my life at a racetrack.
You didn't bet.
It still haunts me. No, I actually did bet him.
So why was it so bad?
To this day, and that's what the column was about.
Give us like a hint. What was it about that made it such a bad day?
I knew somebody who was working that year for Andre Fabre. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke to him, and he told me that Andre Fabre says that he's got a horse that has been working on the dirt, that he's never had a horse work on the dirt any better. I started looking into him, and I found out through my friend and through Andre Fabre. The horse's name was Arkong.
Yeah.
The horse had a back problem. He could not handle going uphill and downhill and hated soft going.
Oh, really?
When he ran on a firm going, he won the Prix du Prince d'Orange by 6 lengths over Arazi.
Wow.
And he had never had a horse work this good on the dirt. And he loved it flat. And he told Alec Wildenstein, he says, go to California. He says, if we run on a fast surface, nobody's going to beat him. Okay. I wrote that.
Yeah.
In the Daily Racing Form. I was doing a countdown to the Cup. So I wrote that whole story in there. And I also realized that this horse, okay,
Yeah.
this horse was going to be like the forgotten horse.
Yeah, it was 133 to 1 or something.
Right. I said, no way in the world anybody's going to know this, but I'm writing it. I'm writing all the information about this horse. Comes time for the Breeders' Cup, and I'm covering the mile and the turf that year. Deadline writing. I don't have to tell you, deadline writing. So what I do that morning, first of all, I spent all the time at the quarantine barn taking pictures, and Arkan was always the first horse that led everybody else. And I said, all right, and I touted him, by the way, to everybody I knew. Touted him big time. All right. Comes the day of the race. I said, all right, look, I'm not a big better. I'm gonna go to the windows. I just want to get a few bets over with.
Yeah.
I bet $4 to win. On our
That's my bet.
$4? Yes.
Wait a second. $4 with the intention of waiting before the race to see what his odds are, and then bet 20 more.
Okay, $24.
Okay? I just wanted to have a couple of tickets in my pocket.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So that's what I did. I bet $4 on him. I started covering the mile, and Laura wins, and I banging out deadline, and I'm pressure. Comes time for the turf. I didn't even know who won the juvenile, which was in between. Comes time to the turf. Kodashan wins 3-2. Yeah. And I'm pounding. I got to get my story out. I'm pounding my story. I'm reading, and I look up. They're in the gate for the classic.
You forgot your $20.
Wait a second. I haven't gotten to the best part yet. What I did is that I called up the day before to make my picks.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, should I be bold enough to pick Arkan? Or there was another horse I really liked named Kissin' Chris, who was like 8-1 morning line.
Yeah.
Who I really liked. So I said, which one should I do? Okay. So I asked my copy chief, listen, do you want top 3 and a long shot? He says, yeah, like we always do.
Yeah.
I said, all right, you know what? I'll put him in as my long shot pick. This way I'll be a hero anyway, because I'll be the only one to have it. And I'll put Kissin' Chris on top. Go to them after making my bets, my $4 bets. I go up to the press box to get a racing form. No long shot picks. They didn't have room for him. They cut him out.
Oh
no!
My whole connection with the with Arkan is severed. I don't have him as my long shot pick. I don't have him first. I don't have him second. I don't have him third. I have no connections to him anymore.
Oh man!
So I said, I got to really load up on him now.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting there. They're in the gate.
Oh no!
I can't even bet him now. I said, and I don't even know. I don't know what his odds are. I'm just trying to get this story out. I said, all right, let me just watch the race. Bertrando is in front.
Yes.
And he's leading in the stretch. And I said, all right, fine. All of a sudden, I see these silks coming, blue silks.
Yep.
Daniel Wildenstein. I go, oh no, this can't be.
Arkan! He's a massive long shot.
133 to 1. I got four freaking dollars on him.
$4.
Meanwhile, do you know who cleaned up? Who won thousands of dollars?
No.
The copy chief who cut my long shot picks out.
Of course he did. That's an amazing story.
I also touted him to a friend of mine who told a friend of his who was in a handicapping contest who won $20,000 because he picked Arkan.
Yeah, there you go. That's how to do it. So
I got nothing.
Okay,
I was miserable.
That was the Arkan story. What was the story that you were Michelle and I that we asked that was your kind of story that you look back on that you really loved?
The Tisnow story was probably the most historic and memorable. Okay.
See, I was right.
The bet that I loved was Volponi.
Oh,
I picked him as my best bet of the whole Breeders' Cup. I love that horse because Phil Johnson, who I love Phil Johnson, and he was suffering from cancer and he deciding what to do with this horse and where to enter him. He was getting coming to the Breeders' Cup where Phil had no clue how he was getting there. This horse, if you look at him, he went through blinkers change, blinkers off. He ran on every surface, every distance, 1.5 miles, 6 furlongs. equipment changes constantly. Phil, mile and a half on turf, 6 furlongs on grass. And I remember that when he had worn blinkers before, Phil took them off. The horse did really well. Phil put them on. He wins an allowance race on the dirt by 15 lengths. Then Phil takes the blinkers off and he wins the poker handicap on the grass, going 1 mile and 132 and 2.
That's fast.
Then he runs a really big race in the Meadowlands Cup. I said, this horse is coming up to like the race of his life.
Wow.
So I touted him. I went on the radio. I touted him.
Stop. Can I guess 1 second?
Yeah.
You bet $5.
40.
No, we got the full 20 in this time.
40.
Only $4.
40. I cashed the biggest win bet of my life.
That's amazing.
On him.
That's awesome.
That was my big bet.
Is there a horse, while we're on this topic of Breeders' Cup, we talked about a little bit about Volpone, obviously, we talked about our Kong, talked about Tiz. Now, is there a horse that stands out in your mind that is like not a story that you bet on, but that you were like, wow, that's one of the greatest horses I've ever seen?
It's going to sound boring if I tell you Flightline.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not boring.
If you want to go by today's racing with 6 races, I mean, you can't put him as one of the all-time great horses, but he did something that no horse had ever done in history of the sport, and no horse will ever do. Win major races like that.
Yeah.
Every one of them by the length of the stretch and setting track records.
So he was
the horse.
Yeah. If you took, hypothetically, let's make a field. Let's say Flightline, let's say Ghost Zapper, let's say Gun Runner, Arrogate. I'm just thinking kind of recent horses off the top of my head. Michelle, feel free to throw one in. Zenyatta. Like, you took a field of that. Who wins?
Depends which Arrogate you're talking about.
Well, not Arrogate.
No, I feel like it has to be every horse at the top of their game, right?
Yeah.
Like California Chrome when he won the World Cup, Arrogate when he won the World Cup.
Arrogate at Santa Anita.
No, it has to either be the Travers or the
Arrogate and Travers, Arrogate and Dubai World Cup.
Those are the two
one of the
good
greatest
ones
horses I've ever seen.
I agree.
I think Arrogate was something really special. And he never recovered from Dubai. He had back problems and was never the same horse, and did not like Del Mar either.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle, when I was asking that question, I had someone in my head. I'm curious to know who you thought of when I asked that question for Steve, like a horse that just sticks out. I have one in my head, and it's crazy that it's the first horse that popped up, and you're going to laugh when I say it, but go.
No, for me, it was just like the minute you said that whole scenario, Secretariat's the first horse that comes to mind.
No, I'm talking about Breeders' Cup.
I would have said Secretariat.
Yeah, I'm talking about Breeders' Cup horses. I'm not talking about greatest horse of all time. We're doing a Breeders' Cup preview show.
Yeah, but we're hearing Steve Haskin's stories. Like, I don't know.
Tony won the Breeders' Cup Classic.
I don't know.
You know who popped into my head? You guys are both going to laugh. And I don't know if this is true because I really need to sit down and think about it, but it was Goldakova.
Oh.
She just popped into my head, like those races that she ran in the mile. I mean, like, I think her... you're going to go Goldakova. I have to one-up you with Wise Dan. I don't know. I'll take Goldakova over Wise Dan. Steve, Goldakova or Wise Dan for the mile?
To me, Wise Dan. I'd have to go with Wise Dan.
Wow.
Steve is smart. That's why we have him on the show. Dan he knows what he's talking about.
Wait, what about Wise Dan or Lure? Uh-oh. Steve looks like he's frozen. Steve, you froze.
You broke him, Billy.
Well, maybe we need to pause. We're going to pause and bring Steve back because he's broken. We're going to re-pause. All right. Recording resumed. Sorry, Steve. So you said Wise Dan. We said Goldakova, Wise Dan. You said Wise Dan. I said Wise Dan.
Wise Dan was he always found a way to win.
What about Wise Dan?
I have to tell you, I wrote a column where it called a day in the life of Wise Dan. He was making his comeback from really serious surgery in the Bernard
surgery twice.
Yeah, this was from his really serious surgery, the last one, coming back into Bernard Baruch. He was already an older horse. He already won 2 Breeders' Cups. And I spent the entire day with him, and I chronicled the entire day about everybody who came to see him. And I followed him to the racetrack. how he won that race, got up by a nose on sheer guts.
Yep.
This horse was just a winning machine. I mean, I think he was incredible. Not to take anything away from Goldacova. I mean, she was amazing to win 3 of them.
Does that have a picture of you and Wise Dan?
That's me and Wise Dan.
Oh
Look,
my goodness.
That's me in the winner's circle when Wise Dan won the Breeders' Cup.
All right, wait a second.
Oh,
Hold
wow.
on. Hold on. Wise Dan or Lure? You brought his name up earlier. He's a 2-time Breeders' Cup winner.
Lure.
Yeah. He was awesome.
Lure was a superstar miler. I mean, the thing is that Wise Dan was going to come as a come behind horse. Lure gets to the front, nobody catches him. He's just too fast.
Right.
You know who else was pretty sensational and fast was Midnight Loot.
We're talking
Midnight
sprint.
Loot was a total freak.
He
was a total freak. The only reason he was a sprinter. The only reason he was a sprinter was he had a breathing problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
otherwise, he was a freak to come back after that big long layoff and blow his field away again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The way he did it was just, I mean, he's unreal.
All right, let's talk about this year because that's what people really want to know, Steve. We want the Volponi story, the Arkong. Is there somebody this year we can go? We don't need to go race by race. Is there someone this year that kind of stands out that might be either a price or just a total lock?
Well, what I always look for, by the way, is to me my greatest story that I ever wrote and the greatest Breeders' Cup Classic I ever saw, as far as the story, was Mucho Macho Man.
Really?
I don't know how well you know that story about Kathy Ritvo and him.
Yeah, a little bit. Go ahead.
Well, I'll try and be brief on this one, but this was a story that wrote itself because I did a lot of research on it. And Kathy Ritvo had a heart problem, really bad, called cardiomyopathy.
Mm-hmm.
He was on IV for 7 months that kept her alive.
Wow.
She couldn't get out of bed. She was for 7 months. When they diagnosed it, she was 5 months pregnant, and they had to terminate her pregnancy.
Oh.
And the only reason she lived to see her son and her daughter grow up. That's the only reason, her will to live. Her husband, Tim Ritvo, said that her legs were like tree stumps. She could not. She was dead. That was his exact words were, he was dead. She was dead, and she wound up eventually getting a heart transplant. But while she was going through all that, about 200 miles away in Ocala, Florida, a foal was being born out in the field. It was 3 weeks overdue. And the owner of the farm, Carol Rio, who had shown dogs, was away. And they called her to tell her that Ponce de Leon was about ready to give birth out in the field. So she came rushing back. The foal comes, she drops her foal, and the foal is born dead.
Oh, no.
It's just laying there, and they're over there, and they're waiting. The foal is born dead. They're standing over there, and they're sobbing, they're crying. Yeah. Out of nowhere. Out of nowhere, the foal jumps to his feet and starts running around the field.
How did I not know this story?
It's amazing.
And that horse was Mucho Macho Man, and he gets united with Kathy Ritvo.
Amazing.
So the whole theme of the story was that the horse and the trainer both came back from the dead, basically.
That reminds me of Tom Durkin's call about DeHaas. It's the greatest comeback since Lazarus.
Right. Well, the funny thing is that's what they nicknamed Mucho Macho Man when he was a foal.
Lazarus.
They named him Lazarus because he came back from the dead. And one of the greatest things I ever saw was, first of all, after the race was over, nobody could tell who had won. And Kathy, and I watched the race with her. And when she had no idea. So they showed the replay. And they're coming down the stretch. And Kathy is watching the replay going, come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy.
41.
And I'm saying, Kathy, the race is over. and they hit the finish line. She says, who won? Does anybody know who won? I said, Kathy, we're going to find out in a second. I mean, the stewards, the placing judges are looking at it now. They put her number up, and the horse came back, and I saw Kathy sprinting the full speed to that horse.
That's amazing.
To go hug him, sprinting to thinking, here she is. These two, her and the horse were both supposedly returned from the dead. She could never get out of bed for 7 months. and here she is running at full speed.
Wow.
To go over the hug this horse.
Great story, Steve. That is awesome. That's
awesome. That's my favorite.
I can't believe I didn't know that story.
I brought up that. Yeah, I brought up.
Let me just tell you a little addendum, which has nothing to do with Cassie. I was doing research on that horse, and I found a statistic. Okay, yeah, I found a statistic that horse was 7 for 7 when he had the lead at the 8th pole. When he didn't have the lead at the 8th pole, he was 0 for 14.
Oh my goodness!
I wrote the story. All right. After the race is over, Gary Stevens is doing the press conference afterwards, and the press conference is over with, and he looks at me and he smiles and he goes, "Thank you." He said, "I just want to let you know that when I came to the quarter pole, all I thought about was you."
Getting the lead.
To myself, I have got Fort Larnard, who had beat him the year before, was on the lead. He says, "I have got to get to the lead by the 8th pole."
That's amazing.
And he rode the tar off of that horse in the top of the stretch just so he could get the lead at the 8th pole. And if he hadn't, he never would have won because he just barely held on.
Yeah, he did. That was an incredible race. Incredible race.
I brought up Gary Stevens to tell me that was incredible.
Amazing. I brought up the Lazarus call by Tom Durkin. Is there a call that kind of stands out for you? I already said that Tisnow wins it for America. I've said Lazarus. Is there a Breeders' Cup call that sticks in your head?
I mean, I would have to say, only because of the excitement of it, I would have to say it was Trevor's call of Zenyatta's Breeders' Cup Classic, which I do not think was her best race.
When she won or when she lost?
The one that she won.
The one she won. This is
I got to tell you, the race she lost. The race she lost. Yeah, the race she lost was the best race she ever ran.
Yeah, I agree.
But standing on the racetrack, by the way, and I couldn't see. I was listening. I was trying to see what was going on because she was lost. She would come from out of it. Gave up on her.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I hear this roar. The crowd was. I hear it, and then I could hear Trevor Denman say that this is unbelievable.
Oh my God!
It was an incredible call.
I was there.
It was just an incredible moment, just being down on the racetrack and listening to that wall of noise.
Steve, I was there when she lost at Churchill to Blame, and two things struck me in that race. Number one, the fact that when they hit the wire and Blame won, it was like 150,000 people. It just went silent.
I've
never in my life heard it went from 1,000% decibel level to 0. It was like the weirdest thing ever. It was so strange. And the other thing is, after really looking at Blame, I feel like Blame was one of the most underrated horses of that generation, bar none. Like, he is at the top of the list. Do you agree with those?
Definitely. Listen, I was right behind Blame when he walked into the winner's circle. Dead silence, and Garrett Gomez is pleading with the people.
Yes, he was. He was like, "Come on, cheer for them!"
Yes,
like,
please.
He was so upset. He was so upset.
Give the horse. And the thing that was amazing about that race is that he won. It was the 100th anniversary of Claiborne Farm.
Yes,
unbelievable.
100 years. Wow. They win it on the 100th, and it was a story in itself, And you have the conflicting stories. But the day after that race, by the way, when they had Zenyatta out all day, and people were lining up, were having their picture taken. And people up against the fence, bringing cakes. It was the most amazing day.
That's it. That is it's amazing the history that you have, and I consider myself a bit of a historian, even though I don't have nearly the amount of experience. I was at the first Breeders' Cup at Hollywood Park. I remember where I was sitting. I remember Chief's Crown winning the very first race. But it's with these Breeders' Cups, there's no other word that comes to my mind except special. And I know that's simple, but they're so, as you go back, I hadn't even thought of Mucho Macho Man until you brought him up. And there's so many stories like that. And did you know, Steve Haskin, that this is the 20-year anniversary of a little horse named Singletary?
Are you kidding? That's the only time I've ever been in the winner's circle in the Breeders' Cup.
Yes.
Thanks for your invitation.
What a day!
If you roll up the music, I want to hear the dramatic music leading up. Leading up before this year's Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Roll it up. Here's your promo.
Yeah.
Stay tuned. Coming up next, It's the mighty Coolmore Stud and Aiden against Little Red Feather and Billy.
It's going to be quite a race. Lake Victoria and Heaven's Gate against Thought Process. It's going to be a great race. All right.
By the way, I got to tell you too, by the way, while we're at the subject, and I hate to tell you this in some ways, but Gold Phoenix is my pick for the turf.
I love it. GF, wait. Hold on.
Is Steve going to get one of your bracelets?
Yes. No.
You got the new ones. You got the new ones.
And it's look what it says.
I love it.
GFP. You know what that stands for, Steve?
What did it say?
It says GFP.
GSP?
No. F is in Frank. Michelle, tell him.
It stands for Gold fucking Phoenix.
Oh, I love it.
Wait, I made special ones for Michelle, who doesn't
like
to
Oh my gosh.
That one's going to Michelle.
Please bring that in the morning so I can wear it on air.
I will.
Do you realize all the Europeans in that race, by the way, are all speed horses?
Yeah. Oh no, we're fine.
There's a couple of others, but that look good. Obviously, that you'll have to beat some classy horses, but he had no shot in his last race. Not with that pace. Sure. He came home in 22-2, and he couldn't make up any ground. Ridiculous. But listen. Last year, my Breeders' Cup turf pick, and I know he's back again this year. And I loved him last year at 25-1 with Sharier, the Japanese horse. Yeah. He was right behind him.
Right, it was right near it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there. He's right there. And Sharier got the perfect trip along the rail.
So did we. Yeah.
And you ran an incredible race. If he runs back to that race, I think he wins.
He loves Del Mar.
He does love Del Mar.
He loves Del Mar. And listen, 3 Del Mar handicaps. Are you kidding me?
We're going to put you on the spot. Let's talk classic this year. You are the man about the classic. You've written about pretty much everyone in the since 1984. Who's the winner?
Okay. First, I want to tell you my column that went up yesterday, was 3 live potential overlays that I wrote about.
I want to hear
that. I think they're going to be big odds and they all have a shot. One is Newgate.
Okay, Newgate.
One is Arthur's Ride.
Who ran?
By the way, let me just throw this little statistic at you because he's the only pure speed horse in the race.
Yeah.
But he won an allowance race before he won the Whitney.
Yes.
And he won by 12 3/4 lengths, ran 1.25 miles, came home the last quarter, eased up in 24 flat for a speed horse, ran 1.25 miles in 2 minutes and 4 fifths. Do you realize there were only 2 Travers winners in the last 45 years have run fast 1.25 miles?
Who were the 2?
Then that was it was Arrogate and Epicenter.
Interesting. Amazing. All right, so we have
and the other one is the horse everybody's forgotten about is Sierra Leone, because everybody says, well, it's a big field.
Like he never wins.
Short stretch.
Can't keep doing it.
I love him in a big field. I don't like him in a small field. He needs a big field. His best races were all in big fields.
All right, so you have $4, which is your standard budget. How are you playing that $4?
Oh, on one horse, or can I?
One horse. You get one.
He can split it up. That's not fair. It's $4. You can split up your $4 however you want.
I mean, let's put it this way. This is a tough race. I mean, Forever Young and again fierceness. And who knows what City of Troy is going to do? If I had to bet, I'd say, you know what? The heck with it. It's Baffert. He's 20-1. I'm going $4 on Newgate.
All right. Wow. I love that. Is there one?
I liked this. I loved his last race. I loved the way he came up. You realize he came up, by the way. He's like his first 6 races. He ran against 8 stablemates. He beat National Treasure.
Yes, he did.
And his Dubai race is a total throwout race. He did not come out of that race well. He was out for 6-7 months. I thought he ran super in the California Crown.
All right,
he got a negative 2 1/4 thoroughgraph number.
He was very fast,
which puts him right there. And his Baffert at 20-1. I'll take a shot.
I like it. All right, I'm going to give you one more question, then we're going to let you go because we've gone on very long. I want to know, forget about odds, forget about anything. Just give me one winner on the card, one lock.
Oh boy, let me see. One lock.
Right, I'll throw some out at you to help you. Cogburn is going to be a big favorite in the turf sprint. We talked about Lake Victoria. I think she'll be a big favorite. Torpedo Anna will probably be a big favorite. Is there one of those, or is there someone else that you're thinking is just a lock?
You would think Torpedo Anna. I just don't know about that. I don't know about that Japanese horse.
Yes,
So,
she's 7 for 7.
Yeah. I'm going to say if there is a lock, I'm going to, even though it's a great field, I'm going to go with East Avenue. Is a horse I latched onto. I latched onto him after his maiden win, and I see him on the track in the morning.
Looks like a gorilla.
Oh yeah, he looks like an older horse.
Yeah,
he takes your breath away. Yeah, I mean it's going to be tough. There's a lot of good horses in there, but he could be something special. So.
Absolutely. I think that's a great call. Steve Haskin, first of all, thank you so much for being the #1 fan of the Owner's Box. We appreciate it. I love getting your emails each week. And I think, Michelle, we need to have Steve on before the Derby next year.
Yeah.
And we'll do kind of a similar thing.
You know where to reach me now?
You see, I'm wearing my Derby shirt.
What's that? Say it again.
You know where to reach me now?
Yeah, no, we know how to get a hold of you, and we should do like, we'll go over the Derby dozen. Maybe we'll do it on an early one, and then like right before the Derby, and we can talk about history. We can talk about who's coming up, because I think people really like that. And to be honest with you, Steve, this was one of my favorite shows. You know, I've always been a fan of yours, and we really, really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it too. And if we go in through all of that, I promise not to imitate Mike McCarthy doing it.
I don't even know what that means. What is the inside joke? I'm missing. Why are you laughing, Michelle? What does that mean?
You thought you watch her interviews?
Yeah, you don't watch. You don't watch Mike McCarthy?
No. What does he say? I didn't see it.
Okay, well, the other day I said I didn't say much, but I said to him, I'm like, hey, how's it going? How's your morning? And he goes, well, my morning was going pretty good, and then you showed up.
Oh no!
No, you know, it's. I think it's a routine now. He's pulling her chains. I mean,
tongue in cheek.
It's all like routine.
It's like Jimmy
and
Kimmel.
I promise, Michelle, I will not use the words epiglottis or trachea in our interview.
I did very well pointing. I was very proud of myself knowing where those things were.
Michelle, let me tell you, by the way, you've been doing a phenomenal job.
She is great.
Thank you.
Really, really great.
You
know, it's not interviewing, it's conversing and having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, Steve, you are the man. We appreciate all the insight. We're wishing you the best Breeders' Cup ever. And
same to you guys.
And we're
bring more than $4.
$4.
Yes.
Steve,
take care, guys.
Thanks, bud.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Steve,
I guess the first time Steve Haskin messaged me, I was like, is this the real Steve Haskin? Like, I couldn't believe that he was messaging me to say something nice. It was awesome.
He's just a legend. And literally, the only reason I cut him off is because this show could have been 3 hours long. I mean, it could have basically been Joe Rogan and Donald Trump for it, right? Like, we could have just kept going, but we would just have stories and stories and stories. Michelle, I know we have one ad to read. Do you want to get to that?
Yeah, I definitely do.
It is for our friends at Morning Lion Club. I know that they were on the show. If you haven't listened to our show about the Morning Lion Club, it was from a couple weeks ago. Please go back and listen to it. It's really detailed. The gentleman who we had on, who I just completely forgot his name right now because I'm too excited about Steve Haskin, really explained it. We're going to have them on again, and we're going to do an actual demonstration. In the meantime, you can go to their website that Michelle's pulling up right now and going to read like a little blurb.
Yes, it is the morninglionclub.com. And it's basically an investment club. It's securities compliant. It's a marketplace for racehorse ownership. And when you buy in, it's $1,000 buy-in, and you get a part of their portfolio. So you get 2 racing shares and 2 breeding shares for every horse in the whole group. I think they were saying there's going to be like 12 or 15 horses in that first portfolio. And what you can do is you can go onto their marketplace after you, and you can, trade and buy other horses that you might like and get rid of the horse that you don't like. So I think it's a really intriguing real life. It's almost like a real life video game, right? Yeah. And it's also like stocks.
It's kind of high tech horse racing, but cool and on the blockchain. I don't even know what that means.
And also fractional
and blockchain. Just I like saying blockchain.
Don't use the word blockchain.
Why?
I don't know, because I don't know if it's proper.
All right.
Blockchain means there's like constant proof.
Let me remind everybody that tomorrow we're having our draft. It'll go up probably tomorrow night or Wednesday morning. This show will go up tomorrow. Steve Haskin, who is awesome. Thank you, Steve. Are there a couple horses that you've seen in the morning that you've been like, ooh, wow, I've been really impressed with this horse?
So, I've been at Santa Anita, so I haven't gotten to see all of the Del Mar horses yet. But the ones that I have seen, Geoglyph has looked just amazing galloping around. Yeah. And
he's in which race? He in the
I don't know. I don't even know.
You don't even know what
race? A turf race, maybe?
No, he's not in the turf.
No, let me look.
I think he's in the Breeders' Cup Mile.
A turf mile, right? Yeah.
Breeders' Cup Turf Mile.
Turf Mile.
Yeah. It's called the Mile.
Okay.
Anybody, by the way,
I should have
need to say the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile. That's annoying. That means you don't know anything about the Breeders' Cup. The Breeders' Cup Mile is raced at 1 mile on the turf. The Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile is the dirt race. Let's just make that clear, Michelle, because that's something that bothers me.
Okay.
I'm fired up right now. Wait, I'm going to put back on my gold Phoenix hat.
Oh, I love that one. I can't wait for that. I'm going to look so good in that. And you know who I love here?
Who?
Full Serrano.
Full Serrano. That's a tough race. Michelle. Wow.
He looks so good. He's so
funny though. I find it funny, these trainers, and they're like, yo, my horse couldn't do anything better. He's doing great. She's doing great. Blah, 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 blah. And yet they have no idea of the rest of the field. Like none. Like literally.
But you can't control the rest of the field. You can only control your horse.
Phil was so funny. I texted Phil the other day. I said, Lake Victoria is coming. And he's like, you worry too much. That's what he said to me. And I'm like, I'm not worried. I'm just telling you facts of Lake Victoria that's going to be the big favorite in our race. And he's like, I don't even know who that is. I'm like, good. Just don't watch any of our replays. Please do not look at the forum. Just don't look at anything. Just concentrate on our horse, which is fine. Then the next sentence, of course, I was like, okay, I'm not even going to talk to this guy about the race, right? We're talking about Phil D'Amato. And the next text I got from him is he goes, who's the horse to beat in Ironman Cal's race? Oh, I worry. And now you're asking me about, all of a sudden you want to know about the race.
Who is the horse to beat in Ironman Cal's race?
I think it's Al Quadra and New Century.
Okay.
They both ran at Woodbine. They ran 1-2. I actually prefer Al Quadra. Well, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Al Qudra. I prefer him over New Century. If you go back and watch their races in Europe, Al Qudra was much better than New Century. Mm-hmm. I think Al Qudra had a little trouble in that race. If you look down the lane, they both were kind of coming together. And if you know that Woodbine turf course, you kind of outside for some reason. Al Qudra got stuck in between horses. So I kind of prefer Al Qudra in there. I think Ironman Cal is, honestly, I'm not just saying this because he's our horse. He is a very live animal to hit the board in that race at a huge price. He is doing so well. I mean, I saw him galloping this morning. Oh no, he jogged this morning. I saw him galloping the other day, and he just looks like a beast right now, and he doesn't know it too. He's like a little kid. I mean, have you seen some of those videos with him and Jessie?
Yes.
It's so funny. I mean, she just loves him. I think he thinks Jessie's his girlfriend. I really do.
So I went and visited him the other day, actually. Yeah. He has the best personality. He's like a little boy that wants to pull your hair when you turn around, or give you a little nibble, but not hurt you. Just
no,
he's
flirting with you.
So handsome.
Yes, he's very.
Earlier we were talking about East Avenue and how he looks a lot more mature. Yeah. When you are up next to Ironman Cal, he looks very masculine. He doesn't look like a baby.
No, but that's exactly right. If you just looked at him and he didn't do anything, he just took a picture, you'd be like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get around him and he's
when he turns that is his face, right? He's like
he's like the hot guy at the bar that you go up to and you're like, oh my God, this guy's so hot. And then he goes, hey, what's going on?
He's like,
beer?
What house are you? Yeah, I really like him. I have been enjoying my mornings with him.
I love when the show goes off the rails. All right, Breeders' Cup draft on tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Tuesday.
Yep, tomorrow, Tuesday. We'll get it out Wednesday. We'll get Steve Haskin out. Thank you, Michelle. Are you down here?
I am leaving tonight to go down there.
Oh, so you're not at the
Ryan's birthday, so I'm having dinner and then driving down.
Happy birthday to you. Will you be singing like a Marilyn Monroe style?
Not like that. No.
Oh, there's your phone. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.